We're asked to find where the graph of y equals 7x squared minus 2x minus 5 crosses the x-axis. Now the x-axis is also the line y equals 0. That means we're going to set y equal to 0. So we've got 0 equals 7x squared minus 2x minus 5. Now we've got several methods at this point. You could try to factor the right-hand side, or complete the square, or use the quadratic formula. I'm going to try to factor this. I want to use factoring by grouping. That's where I take the first times the last, so that's negative 35. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 35 that are going to add up to the coefficient of the middle term, add up to negative 2. So negative 35, we could write this as 1 times negative 35, or 5 times negative 7. 5 and negative 7 add up to negative 2. So that's how we're going to break this apart. We're going to write this as 0 equals 7x squared. Right, we're going to leave the first term. We're going to keep the last term. But this middle one we're going to break apart. Negative 2x is the same thing as these two that we just found. Positive 5x minus 7x. And now that we've got this in two groups, we're going to factor this by grouping. You look for a common factor in the first group, and I see that these both have an x in common. So this leaves us with 7x plus 5 in the parentheses. These back two terms, it looks like they have nothing in common, but you can always treat 1 as the greatest common factor. And to save ourselves a little headache, we're also going to factor out whatever the leading sign is here. This is negative, so we're going to factor out negative 1. If you divide the first term by negative 1, we're left with 7x. We divide this by negative 1, we're left with plus 5. And this still equals 0. Now I see that these two both have a 7x plus 5 in common. So that 7x plus 5 common factor will come out to the front. And once we've factored this out, what's left in the parentheses will be x minus 1. And this still equals 0. Now that it's factored, we can split it into two separate equations. This means that either 7x plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. Now let's solve each of these for x. So for the first equation, we're going to subtract 5 on both sides. This leaves us with 7x equals negative 5. And if we divide out, we get x equals negative 5/7. In the second equation, to get x by itself, we can add 1 on both sides. And this leaves us with x equals 1. So these are the two x values where the graph crosses the axis. However, we're looking for points. So the first point has an x value of negative 5/7 and a y value of 0. The second point has an x value of 1 and a y value of 0. So these are the 2 points where the graph crosses the x-axis.